Let's get on to some of the midweek action, shall we? And we begin with a huge game on Wednesday night at the very foot of the Championship table. Luton v Plymouth at Kenilworth Road, 24th v 23rd. And it all finished 1-1. Luton had 17 shots to Plymouth's 3. And Matt Bloomfield must be sat there wondering how on earth he didn't get his first win as Luton boss, Justin.
How on earth? I mean, a lack of quality would be the direct sort of response to that. I think I seem to remember Elijah Adebayo having a chance. I know we spoke about him at the weekend, but obviously he had that chance where he blazed it over the bar. It was a good move, and another day could have got it on target, or maybe in the Premier League he could have got it on target. But I think a lack of quality was the problem. I think it's an obvious shout from a Luton perspective, but when you create that many, I wouldn't say goal scoring moments, but that many shots on goal, your decision making can sometimes be a little bit lackluster because obviously these shots aren't always on. And, again, you're not exactly cutting through Plymouth on the regular either. So, yeah, it's one of those occasions where you go, okay, that probably pretty much sums up where Luton are at the moment, where they have a lot of endeavour, bear down on Plymouth's goal as often as they do, but don't really look like they're going to run away with it. 17 shots is a big old stat, but I don't recall too many moments where I've gone, oh, Plymouth are struggling here. So yeah, not the best, I think, display from a Luton point of view, despite dominating the shot count.
Well, they were 1-0 up, and the way I look at it, if you're 1-0 up against Plymouth at home, you have to be seen out, no matter where you are in the league. And they did have chances. Jacob Brown scored 23 seconds after coming on, by the way, which I enjoyed. But he also missed the freest of free headers right near the end after the Plymouth equaliser. And then, as you say, Elijah Adebayo missed his usual big chance, which is becoming just customary now in Luton games. Elijah Adebayo missing at least one big chance. So, look, they had opportunities, but they could have found themselves in a very different position because Plymouth did have a goal disallowed in the first half offside through Callum Wright, which was tight, but looked more onside than off, Justin.
Yeah, it looks too tight to give from the angles that I saw. It's unfortunately the sort of thing you need VAR for. I'm not going to bash the linesman because I think that's as close as you do get with the naked eye. So he may have seen a strayed kneecap or a slightly elongated toe. But yeah, it's one of them where I'm thinking, if I was running the line that night, I probably wouldn't have given it. It's too tight for me to call. But this is a split second decision. You've got to give some sympathy to the official there.
Yeah, I suppose so, but I would have definitely been in the same camp as you, too tight to make a decision, really. So, yeah, Plymouth will probably count themselves a bit unlucky, even though it was Luton who had the vast majority of the momentum in that game. But look, I didn't watch this game live. I caught up with it this morning. But when I saw the score last night, Justin, my first thought was that's a good result for all the teams above these two. I don't think a draw helps either of them particularly, even though one will obviously be much happier than the other in Plymouth. But it's really a result which both of them will look at thinking, we could have really done with more in this one. Do you think?
Yeah, I come away with exactly the same thought. I think probably Plymouth are more suited to the result than Luton, but I don't think the draw helps either team. They obviously need wins. I think Plymouth are in a position where they are gaining a little bit more momentum than Luton, because Luton just cannot get going. But if you're going to pick out who the result was more suited for, it's the likes of Stoke, Cardiff, Hull, and Derby, who currently sit above Plymouth and Luton at the moment. That's who the result is really working out for here. I think if Luton or Plymouth win, it probably, form wise, getting a away win, that really pushes them, I think, in a positive direction. But 3 shots on target, they rarely threatened. Yeah, you're not gonna win too many games being that. I'd say resolute would be the polite way.
Not 3 shots on target, Justin. It was only 3 shots in total.
3 shots, yeah. You're not going to get wins away from home being that restrictive of your own game plan. But from a Luton point of view, I think it's I would argue a disastrous result in the sense that they didn't see the game out, didn't put any of their big chances away, and they couldn't find a 3 points that they desperately need.
Yeah, I completely agree, Justin. I think Plymouth's abysmal away form means they'll take any form of points they get on the road. So they'll be content with this. But at the same time, if they were going to win an away game this season, this was probably the one. And I would suggest that their chances of staying up at this stage are now relying solely on their results at home park. For Luton, though, this is a disastrous result. You 1-0 up with 20 minutes to go. Sure, the equaliser didn't come in the final minutes of the game, but you've got to be seeing it out when you're facing a team who were clearly as satisfied with a point as Plymouth were in this one. And look, if they're not winning against Plymouth at home, where is Matt Bloomfield going to get that first win? Because we're not in a position where we want to see promising performances from Luton anymore. We just need any form of results, and they're not getting them, are they? So I would be extremely concerned if I was a Luton fan after this result, Justin.
Yeah, coming away from it, you would be. If you just look at their team, for example, the likes of Nordas started as A. Jones, Callum Lang as well, who I thought had a pretty decent game. Mind and Asgard, they all came in January. Nordas was pretty poor. Jones didn't look great. And Asgard had moments, but again, nothing consistent. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, okay, you spent a fair bit of money on new players here. They don't even have much of an impact in this game against a team who you're at the bottom of the table with, who I'll praise Plymouth because I think they've been terrific in the last few weeks, because they've really, really shut teams out, and by and large did a good job here against Luton. But with the quality that Luton do possess, you should be expecting a hell of a lot more against a relegation rival at home. Didn't get it. Yes, you start to now think, okay, Luton are in proper danger here. This is not good. Not good at all. I know they've been at the bottom table for long periods of the season so far, but I think this game is a proper reminder that shit, they are down there. They are not getting out of it anytime soon.
I think they're not in proper danger anymore, Justin. They're going down, aren't they? At the moment, it's looking very difficult to argue that they're not, because I've been thinking for ages that surely they're just too good to go down and things will turn around at some point, but it's just not happening, is it? And we've seen plenty of evidence in recent years of being too good to go down just isn't a thing anymore. And Luton, we're just not seeing these signs that they are going to get out of it. And Matt Bloomfield has had little to no effect at all. And at this stage, Luton fans just seem to almost be accepting that they're going down. It's a ridiculous situation for them to be in. And the strange thing is, Justin, right? If Luton do go down, we're going to be doing things like going on the radio and we'll get asked, where's it gone wrong for Luton this season? And the truth is, it's really hard to say what has gone wrong for Luton this season. Sure, you can say they just haven't adapted tactically to coming back down to the Championship. There have been several players who haven't been showing any sort of form all season. But even then, there must be more to the fact that Luton Town are bottom of the table, having been in the Premier League last season. It's just a mind-blowing set of circumstances. So I think there must have been something that's happened behind the scenes for everything to just kind of go as badly as it has done. But even then, it's really, really hard to put your finger on why Luton are just so shite.
I mean, I think there are a few cases. I think Ross Barkley leaving in the summer and not replacing him was a bad move. I think there's been a drop off in leadership on the pitch that should have been addressed.
All those things are just factors, Justin. There isn't like one sole factor which you can point at for why it's gone so wrong for Luton, is there? As I say, there's loads of different things that you can say, but usually there's at least one big thing you can say, yeah, this has been the main reason why. I really don't know what that is with Luton.
Well, it doesn't have to be one big reason. It can be several.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, no, it could be several, which is what I was alluding to. Not replacing Ross Barkley, a drop off in leadership. The old guard leaving, and we're talking about recruiting big personalities. I think recruitment's been a big thing, where I think there's been a lot more misses over the past sort of 18 months than there has been hits. You look at, I'm not going to dig him out, but Liam Walsh here. I still don't understand this signing at all. I've not seen him have a good game at all. It's a weird one, a strange one. I just think the team's currently devoid of personality, which, going to the Premier League.
They weren't before, Justin. They weren't, but this is very much as a similar team to the one that got promoted, and many of these players were playing for them in the Premier League last season and showed a lot of personality when they were coming up against sides much better than them, and yet they're just absolutely trousers.
Yeah, we talk about recruitment in the Premier League, but those players are playing in their top flight. They're going to prove that want to prove themselves. They're playing with the best. Do they still have that same hunger in the Championship? And this is what I mean about recruiting personalities. So I think when it comes to it at the end of the season, there will be a deep dive. There will be a real magnifying glass on what's gone wrong, because you are right. There is no one big factor. The club hasn't been a disaster on and off the pitch. I think it's just been a culmination of several things that's ultimately dragged the club down like an anchor. It's not been an instant thing. It's been a slow decline, and I think we have seen that and things surface over the course of the season.
And it's ridiculous that we're saying this about Luton Town, who up until 12 months ago were regarded by the vast majority of people as pound for pound one of the best run clubs in the country. So it's incredible, really, that we're at this stage where they look like they are going down. I mean, we must point out they are only 2 points from safety. There's still 13 games to go. They could still very easily turn this around, but in terms of signs of life, we're really not seeing them, are we, with this Luton team? And I think even if they do stay up, there will be a big kind of autopsy at the end of the season where they try to figure out what's gone so badly wrong this season. But yeah, it's in terms of their fight to stay up, which is the only focus right now, it's really not looking good. But look, it's a big one this weekend for Luton because they've got Watford away on Sunday, the old M1 derby. We'll talk more about that in tomorrow's preview show, brought to you by SBK. And we did have another game in midweek. That was on Tuesday night, although you may have not noticed this one because not as much at stake. It's the race for 12th place, though. It finished Preston 1, Millwall 1. A game which was never going to be one for the ages. I think we can all accept that. But I tell you what, a stunning free kick by Mihailo Ivanovic in this one for Millwall, Justin. What a beauty that was.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Ivanovic, I think this season has the nicest looking goal catalogue you've got of any player, I think, throughout the time of the campaign. He's scored chips, the volley against Luton, he's got that header in the FA Cup, and now he's got a free kick. And I think I've said before,
the header in the FA Cup was very funny. I wouldn't say it was one he's going to be showing his grandkids in decades to come. It's
a beautiful goal catalogue, and I think if you're scoring a header like that, it deserves to be in there. But I've said before, technique-wise, I do think Ivanovic is outstanding. He's got a lot of refining to go. But yeah, this free kick was just wow. Alex Neil said after the game he didn't know Ivanovic had free kicks in him, which goes to show Neil's not exactly exposed to it. But yeah, what an incredible strike from 30-something yards, I would say, distance-wise. It was a long goal away. Yeah,
it was a beautiful free kick. It was just a really, really nice one. I think Emil Reis's goal wasn't bad either for that matter. But yeah, the Ivanovic goal was glorious. And I tell you what, he's shown in the last couple of months why Millwall spent so much money on him. And we talk a lot about how the vast majority of Championship sides are looking for strikers every transfer window because good strikers at this level are so hard to find. And the good ones are very usually headhunted anyway. Ivanovic is plenty of work to do, but at just 20 years old, he could be a really big player for Millwall going forwards because I think he's shown a lot of promise. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops over the next 12 months or so. But all in all, Justin, the race for the playoffs is looking wide open right now. But I'm guessing for you, these two won't be involved in that. I'm not sure anyone was banging that drum, either for them being involved. But I watch a game like this and think, yeah, it's going to be a quiet final 13 games for these two, isn't it?
Yeah, there are two teams going through the motions, though. I think Preston obviously going through them longer than Millwall, obviously. I think Alex Neil's still trying to get the balance right of his Millwall team. I think this starting 11 that they've put out here against Preston is probably as good as it will look this season. So if you can find consistency in that will push that could push Millwall up the table. But with Preston, it's a case of they're going to go through the motions a lot longer than Millwall, because I think the squad still needs developing. I think, to Paul Heckingbottom's credit, I feared the worst for them at one point in the season, because obviously the season started in the worst possible way, literally the worst possible way, with their manager leaving after one game. I think everyone can forget that because it feels like such a long time ago, but they've struggled for consistency. I think with Millwall, I think they've got the formula to potentially skirmish with the playoffs this season. Whether they do that or not, it is another case. But yeah, they could potentially do it if Alex Neil can find some momentum going into those final 13 games or so. But with Preston, I think mid-table purgatory for the rest of the time.
I mean, I was quite worried about Millwall at one point around the time Alex Neil came in. But he seems to have steadied the ship now, so fair play to him. But yeah, it just looks like these two are starting their own party in the middle of the table, because they're right next to each other, 14th and 15th, both 13 points clear of the bottom three, so they shouldn't be involved in that at this stage. And then I would say they're just below the cut-off point for the teams that are in the race for the playoffs. So, as I say, I would be surprised if it was an eventful final 15 games for either of these two teams, but I guess they can start planning for next season and figure out where they need to strengthen. But yeah, sorry, Millwall and Preston fans, I don't think it's going to be much for you to be talking about for the remainder of the season, put it that way. By the way, both these sides have players who feature in my new video on the Second Tier YouTube channel. I've picked an 11 of the most underrated players in the Championship. Go and watch that if you haven't already, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with our content going forwards over there. But we'll have a quick break, Justin, talk about some more news from across the Championship. But before that, 5 in 10. Name 5 Queen songs.
Oh God, Queen's catalogue, Bohemian Rhapsody, Under Pressure. That's technically
you've done really badly Under Pressure, because that is 10 seconds, Justin. That was an appalling showing. You can't name 5 Queen songs.
I can, but not under pressure, so to speak. No. But
pressure's a big problem for you, isn't it? You always seem to fumble under the pressure.
Yeah, it's Queen. They're a band for me that I think maybe get too much. Don't
praise. Blame Queen because I am blaming Queen because appalling. No.
I am blaming Queen because their choruses are very catchy for the public, but 5 songs naming title wise, just can't do it. I could sing of 5 songs, but I couldn't name you 5 songs.
I thought Cream would be right up your street, but there you go. Justin Peach has fallen foul to 5 in 10 once again here on the Second Tier podcast. He's not done very well with this since we introduced this feature, but we'll see how he gets on again next week. Right, now we'll have a quick break, Justin, and talk about some of the news from across the Championship for the past few days. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. We'll have a little chit-chat about some of the news from across the old Champo over the past few days. We've got the latest on the Swansea job, Justin, following Luke Williams' sacking on Monday. Now, Wales Online say it's likely that caretaker manager Alan Sheehan will be given a few games while the club decide their next move. They've also gone on to say former Oxford manager Des Buckingham is not a contender for the role, despite reports saying he was. It's also unlikely there'll be a return for Russell Martin, Ryan Mason, Rob Edwards and George Boateng amongst those who have been linked with the job. Bloody hell, Boateng's agent is earning his money, isn't he? His WhatsApp must be on fire, getting linked with every job in the Championship at the moment. But look, Justin, we briefly spoke about Williams' sacking following the Leeds-Sunderland game on Monday night. But with regards to where they go next, what should Swansea be looking for in their next manager, do you think?
Following the Swansea blueprint? That's with a question mark. Should that be considered? I say that with cynicism. I mean, we're a successful manager since the Premier League days. Didn't play the Swansea way in Steve Cooper. So in terms of what they look for, I honestly don't know. Obviously, it's a new ownership. So will they stick to that blueprint or will they veer away from it? Ooh, yeah, it's a tricky one. I think Luke Williams probably embodied the Swansea spirit as much as any manager that they've had in a while, because he's a very, very talented coach and he's going to get the best out of and develop individuals. So I think in terms of player growth, that's probably where they need to look. I think the Swansea way is a very important factor for how they do recruit managers, but I would like to say that I think that maybe there needs to be some moving away from it a little bit, maybe a hybrid approach, because I think they really do put themselves under a little bit of pressure in terms of finding a manager who can play it on their deck just consistently. I think they do need a manager who can do that, but also has more to their game than just that. But I think the main ethos here is developing individuals, developing individual quality. It's no mistake that the managers they've been linked with so far are very much head coaches, aren't they? George Boateng, for example. So yeah, going down that route, I think is the best way I can probably describe it, because I don't know what the Swansea blueprint looks like anymore.
I mean, the frustration for me is the manager they should be looking for is someone who's a long-term appointment and plays the Swansea way. Essentially Luke Williams. So that's why I was saying on Monday, yes, the form is bad, but Swansea may live to regret that decision, because he seemed like the ideal man to lead the project there a little over a month ago. So what I think they need to do is get another Luke Williams, essentially. I'm not sure who that is, though. What I will say is Swansea had a ridiculous record when it came to appointing managers not too long ago. Since coming down to the Championship, they've had Graham Potter, then it was Steve Cooper, then it was Russell Martin. 3 ambitious appointments, and those guys went on to bigger things after leaving Swansea. And between 2017 and the end of 2023, Swansea hadn't sacked a manager because 2 of them got poached, and then Steve Cooper walked before going to Forest shortly afterwards. But now Swansea have sacked 2 managers in 14 months. So that goes to show their approach hasn't been spot on recently. I think there's a lot of potential in this Swansea squad. And that's why I think they need someone to lead the project. And that's why I think they need to be looking at an ambitious appointment with a view to the long term, preferably playing the Swansea way, because the last manager they had who didn't play the Swansea way, Michael Duff, was basically kicked out of the club because he didn't play the Swansea way. So I think that would definitely be a benefit. But at this stage, I think Swansea fans just want some sort of success.
I think it's really worth pointing out that, we've seen Graham Potter get poached, we've seen Russell Martin get poached, we've seen Steve Cooper leave, but all 3 managers had various elements of success. They also had they were much better squads, I feel, than the one that they've got at their disposal now. I know you can argue that Russell Martin's squad probably was maybe on par, but that's by the by. I think the squads and the recruitment and the players that they had at those points with those managers was a lot better than they've got now. And I think we've seen 2 managers not be a success at Swansea. I think that's down to a lot of factors internally at the club, not necessarily down to the coach. I think Luke Williams could have been a success, but I generally think the tools that he's got, he's got in front of him aren't good enough. And I think that's where the problem lies for Swansea is the recruitment strategy. And obviously if the recruitment for players is poor, is the recruitment for manager going to be any better? The recruitment teams do play a big role in identifying their next manager as well. Swansea, not very good at that. So I am a little bit worried about where they go next. I think a safe appointment till the end of the season, at the very least, should be the target. Whether that's a caretaker manager until the end of the season or just a short-term appointment is another question. But yeah, I'm not wholly convinced by Swansea's approach to things at the moment.
I mean, I like the Swansea squad. I think I've said on numerous occasions this season, on paper, it should be the starting 11 should be around the playoff picture. The squad depth is certainly an issue which hasn't been rectified and has only been made worse after the lack of business in January. So that's how I'm looking at Swansea as a whole. But it's going to be fascinating to see who they get in. It is worth mentioning Swansea have only recently appointed Richard Montague as their new director of football. He was at Notts County, worked with Luke Williams, so that was a very brief reunion, but he's known for being very data-led, so it'd be interesting to see who he goes with. Anyway, Luke Williams was a managerial casualty this week. It doesn't seem like Michael Carrick will be joining him yet. That's according to the Northern Echo, who say Middlesbrough owner Steve Gibson is backing Carrick to get results back on track and secure promotion this season. Gibson is said to value Carrick's leadership and demeanour, and while there is disappointment about recent results, there's no desire to change head coach at this time. And I think it's respectable that Borough are willing to be patient with Carrick, Justin. Whether it's the right decision or not, only time will tell.
I like it. I think a lot of time we can get drawn into a sacking culture, can't we? Even with us. I think sometimes we can just think, oh, well, the position is untenable. It really is. But at the same time, when we drive for that immediacy of success, we forget the other factors that should play a part in considering sacking a manager. You've got Carrick here, whose style of play is very exciting, but I think most of all, he's developed a lot of players into very refined figures. Chuba Akpom is one who, obviously, I know he had form when Carrick first came into Borough, but it felt like those tactical switches that got the best out of Akpom, and therefore, he was sold for big money. Morgan Rogers is another one. And then looking at the current squad, you've got Rev van den Berg, Hayden Hackney, two other examples who have really come on under him. So, they've brought in big money, or Michael Carrick's brought in big money for Middlesbrough. And I think those two players I just mentioned will go for big money if Borough don't go up. So, yeah, results have been poor, perhaps, but, I think a less patient owner than Steve Gibson probably would have sacked Carrick by now. But to credit Steve Gibson, if he is to follow line here, it's a bold choice, but you've got to really, really praise him for it. And I think, as I say, you've got to look at other factors other than just results in this one with Michael Carrick, because general play is going in the right direction, or has been going in the right direction. There needs to be a tightening up defensively, and players have been getting better. So, yeah, it's a unique case, but one that you can get behind.
Well, Steve Gibson has always been regarded by many as a very good football owner, hasn't he? I think there's some evidence you can throw at him which would say otherwise, but this is an example of him showing a calm head during the malaise. And it's easy for fans to forget Michael Carrick hasn't become a bad manager overnight. For the most part, he has done a good job at Middlesbrough, just as you were just going through then. And while there are plenty of reasons right now why they could make a change, it's entirely fair if Steve Gibson thinks differently. And if he still thinks he can secure promotion this season, then why not stick with him? Maybe it is just a bad run of form, and maybe this will look like a great decision in hindsight. So maybe Carrick's job is safe until the end of the season, would you suggest?
Yeah, I think until the end of the season's probably about right on the basis of this. I think it's only going to take a dramatic drop-off from Borough for him to actually get sacked before the end of the season, maybe at the end of the season. But as I say, I think that the factors that I mentioned, I think are going to keep him in the job, because he's alleviating that financial pressure on Steve Gibson, because he's bringing a lot of money into the club by the players improving and then therefore being sold. So yeah, I think it's a good choice. It is a wise choice, and that public backing I think is very responsible. We've not seen it for managers so far this season, the likes of Rob Edwards, the likes of Paul Warne. Just two examples, and probably poor examples because those two clubs were hurtling towards the relegation zone at the time of sacking. So, but with Michael Carrick and Borough, yeah, very, very honourable.
Now, Portsmouth have announced that Callum Lang is likely going to miss the remainder of the season because of a torn hamstring. He went off in the 67th minute of Pompey's win at Oxford last weekend. He's their top scorer with 10 goals for the season, and this is a huge blow, isn't it, Justin?
Yeah, he's been exceptional this season. I did some quick math. He's scored a quarter of Portsmouth's goals this season, so clearly a vital player, but his contribution in games is outside of scoring is huge. He absorbs pressure. His ball retention is really good. He attracts fouls. His work rate is great. So him getting injured is a huge blow. I think the pressure on Callum Lang has probably been lifted somewhat by Josh Murphy. I do this all the time. I don't double check.
Josh.
Good. Josh Murphy being in good form, obviously his twin brother is very difficult to tell him apart. But Josh Murphy's form is good. Colby Bishop's a presence, and he's been contributing a lot. Matt Ritchie as well, I think, has been, I wouldn't say revelation this season, but he's taken me aback as to how well he's done, especially at Fratton Park. But also I think defensively there's a lot more roundedness to Portsmouth. Isaac Hayden coming in is a big contributor to that as well. So yeah, I think Callum, it is a huge blow because he is their talisman, but other players are stepping up for Portsmouth, which I think just, releases that pressure a little bit on Lang and the importance of Lang in that team.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Justin. I mean, Lang has arguably been their player of the season, really. He's been excellent all season in that number 10 role and has scored plenty of important goals and will undoubtedly be a big miss. But to echo your point, I don't think the blow is as big as it could have been because they signed a couple of attackers in January as well, namely Adil Al-Shish from Sunderland, who it looks like will be a straight swap for Lang. He looked threatening when he was at Sunderland, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on at Fratton Park. Now he's probably going to get a chance, but I don't think it'll be as big a blow as it would have been a few months ago, but I just hope it doesn't disrupt their recent form because it looks like right now they're climbing away from the relegation fight, doesn't it? So hopefully it doesn't disrupt that, Justin.
Yeah, that's the big call, isn't it? Whether or not he's going to be such a significant impact on that team that they do drop off. But as I say, I think what we found in the first 4 months of the season was John Mousinho was struggling to find a balance with his team. I think Colby Bishop coming back in has really helped him because he's given that figurehead in that starting 11, and obviously Murphy being one avenue of attack, and his form's been great over the last, I think, probably since end of October. So the one thing you don't want it to do is disrupt them going forwards, and obviously he's a big worker off the ball as well. But this is why they went after Adil Ashish. They signed obviously Waddingham as well from Australia, who's, I know he's a forward, but it gives them variation in attack. So Mousinho's got a lot more options at his disposal than he would have done, if Lang got injured 3 months ago, for example. So I guess in a sense, this is, timing wise, as good as it could have got for Portsmouth.
Now, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. After all the controversy from the past 2 months, Justin Peach getting on his high horse, saying he doesn't rate goals from inside a player's own half. The people have spoken. And today we're going to find out the goals that Justin Peach does rate. This is the top 5 goals in Championship history in the mind of Justin Peach. This is huge, people. This is huge. Strap yourselves in because this is big. Let's find out what he thinks are actually good goals. Are you nervous, Justin?
I'm not nervous. No, why would I be nervous? I'm very confident in my decisions here. Unfortunately, I just don't rate punts. I just don't rate punts.
It's not a punt.
It's a punt.
Sake. How about we kick things off, shall we, with what you think is the 5th best goal in Championship history?
The 5th. I mean, I didn't want to put them in order, but I'm going to force myself into it. The 5th best goal in Championship history, I've gone with Sylvain Ebanks-Blake for Wolves against Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
It's the back heel where he's on the touchline. It's the back heel. He back heels it. It makes the defender. He turns the defender and then he slots it in. Yes, it's not a screamer, but if you're talking about individual,
does that take more skill than Josh Windas's goal?
Fuck yes, it does. Come off it. Oh my God. The improvisation from Ebanks-Blake here, I think, is and the awareness. I think that a lot goes into that goal than Josh Windass put his foot through the ball. To be honest with you, do you want me to keep going? Just want to rattle them off here.
What's number 4, Justin?
Number 4 is a Sheffield Wednesday player. It's Marco Mateus versus Leeds.
Oh, good goal.
That goal is something going in me. Oh yeah, it does. It really does, because that ball's coming over him. He chests it down. He cuts inside, flicks it over the Leeds defender, and then volleys it on his weaker foot. Come on. Come on.
That was a beautiful goal. Around 2015, once it at Ellen Road.
Yeah, exactly.
Well. That was a superb goal. So it's fair that that's in your top 5. Justin, what's next?
George Baldock versus Swansea.
The little scissors kick volley into the top corner.
I feel this one, between first and second, is so tight. But this little scissor kick he does, and the power he generates, and it's I think it's a full volley as well. It's just outstanding technical brilliance from Baldock. I have a very heavy volley bias here. It's worth adding.
Okay.
But that goal from Baldock, I think, was just, again, an excellent execution of a very difficult shot.
Yeah, around 22, 23, that was, wasn't it? Yeah, that was a beautiful goal. It's a beautiful goal. I'm starting to think of some goals which clearly haven't made it into your top 5 now, which is interesting. But go on, Justin, what's your second greatest Championship goal of all time?
Recency bias, but Erling Haaland's brother, Brad Potts versus Luton. Oh my God. That was, the beginning of the 22-23 season? Right at the start of the season? Like, this was August. So this is a hard one to remember. But this goal, I beg you to watch this over and over again. To the point, this goal was so good that people did think it was Erling Haaland's brother. That was the Twitter rumour at the time. And because he looks like Erling Haaland, it's worth adding. But this goal again is just, it's a bicycle kick, but the fact that it's a long looping ball going into absolute nowhere into Luton box, and Brad Potts pulls off again another bit of individual brilliance, individual quality and improvisation, and he just absolutely batters it past the Luton goalkeeper. I just don't think you can really get much better than that on technical quality.
Now, I'm very interested to know what you think is the best goal of in Championship history, Justin, because we're down to number 1. What is it?
It's Ruben Neves, Wolves versus Derby.
Okay. Yeah, fair.
This goal, I watched this game, and this was a flat performance from Derby. It was a terrible performance, and it wasn't a fun game to watch generally because Wolves were cruising to the title, but then Ruben Neves just pulls out the fucking balls on him to do that. To I think it's Scott Carson. I think he punches it away. I can't remember now. It gets headed away, and Ruben Neves is about 35 yards out. He brings it down, keeps the ball elevated, and then he just volleys it into the top corner. Goodness me. Like, how can you possibly tell me that any Josh Windass goal or Lewis Baker or Ismail Assar kicking it from the halfway line, just putting their foot through the ball, is better than any of those 5 goals that I just mentioned?
I'm not. I don't think anyone is saying that, because that Neves goal probably is, at least in the top 2 best goals in Championship history. It's an absolutely wonderful strike, and it's difficult to really top that. It doesn't get any better than that. It's a ridiculous strike. It's just interesting how you judge what goals have more technical ability about them than other ones. But, it's completely subjective. That's completely fine, Justin. It's all a matter of opinion. Interesting absentee in your top 5. Are you not including John McGinn against Sheffield Wednesday?
No, I do like that goal, but
that's honestly one of the most stunning goals I've ever seen in terms of technique. That is basically as good as it gets for me.
It's a beautiful execution of a volley. I'm not going to lie, but it's a good volley. It is a good volley. I'm not. I think the angle he's got, I'm not overly convinced by it.
What? What do you mean the angle he's got?
I think because he's side on with it, he can generate a lot more power without getting the lift. I think that Marco Mateus one that I've mentioned, for example, he's got to get it over the defender, but also.
Justin, that is the most stunning technique of a volley I've ever seen in my life.
Hold on. You've literally, before you started criticising me now, you just said, it's all subjective, isn't it? And now you're criticising me.
But your reasoning is absolute bollocks.
It's not. It's a technical reasoning. I think because McGinn's side on with it, he can get a lot of power behind it without having to worry about too much of the lift. If you were able to do this yourself, Ryan, you'd know about it. But clearly that skill set is absent to you.
You wouldn't. The thing is with that goal, right? Maybe the Ruben Neves goal I could eventually score in 1 in 1,000 goes. I am never scoring that John McGinn goal in a million years. That's how good it is.
I'd back you to score it. There's no way you're putting off Brad Potts or George Baldock. There's no way you're putting off Brad Potts or George Baldock, or even Marco Mateus for that matter.
I think I'll break a hip if I tried Brad Potts' goal. But the John McGinn goal for me is easily the greatest goal in Championship history, because I just don't think I've ever seen a volley struck as cleanly as that. It is absolutely gorgeous. And the one replay you've got behind it where you see it swerve into the top corner, it's absolutely superb. I'd give a mention as well for Wes Burns' Trivella last season. That was a beautiful goal, which maybe you forgot about, Justin.
I did forget about it, but I think it's a hard thing to execute. But again, I'd back a professional footballer pulling that off. It was a beautiful goal, and it was beautiful. But in terms of top 5 Championship goals, like oh my god, my hands above my head, my mouth is dropped, sort of thing. I wasn't sat like that with Wes Burns' goal.
Okay. I was like that for John McGinn's goal for
but I think
several weeks.
That's one way of measuring a goal. If you stand up out of your chair and go, "Oh my fucking god, what just happened?" I think that is a measure of how good of a goal is.
Like that Rio Ferdinand video where he's just shouting Ballon d'Or, Ballon d'Or, Ballon
exactly.
d'Or.
Exactly. When it breaks you as a human being, that's how good a goal is. If I saw that Josh Windass goal, I'd be like, bloody hell, what's he doing?
Okay. Well, there you go. Hopefully this has answered your critics of what you rate as a goal, Justin, because you clearly don't rate halfway line goals. So maybe this has given people food for thought. But what? Let's put it out to the listener. What do you think is the greatest goal in Championship history? Let us know on secondtierpod@gmail.com. Alternatively, just DM us on Twitter with what your shouts are, and we'll give some of them a shout out next time out. And that'll be tomorrow, ladies and gents, in the preview show brought to you by SBK. That's when we'll next be back. And then, we look forward to looking ahead to the weekend with you for that, ladies and gents. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.